Hi everybody, welcome to Sit Down. I'm DJ Sixsmith, hanging out today, Agent Kate Dillon. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming in. So, really exciting time for you because whether it's Billions or Orange is the New Black or Master of None the last couple of years, like you're hitting on all these really culturally relevant shows. So, what's it been like for you after building this thing out for so many years?
You know, I feel so lucky. I feel like it's a real combination of hard work and luck. I never could have imagined that I would find myself where I am right now, but it also feels really right.
So where did you expect to be?
Well, as I said, I'm not sure. I feel like I've always, from a very young age, known that I was a performer, that was what I was here to
How young are we talking?
To do. Young. I mean, 2, 3,
Oh, wow.
4 years old. Yeah.
You just have the gene, the bug.
Yeah, the bug. I
Yeah.
think is a good word for it. And so I didn't know how it would manifest. I knew it would manifest, but I didn't know exactly what it would look like.
And who were people that you looked to early on, just as inspirations, or just people that you really were pulled to them for their magnetic pull?
One of my earliest memories, actually, is watching a film called Stand By Me.
Who's in that?
River Phoenix,
Okay.
Will Wheaton, Jerry O'Connell,
Oh,
who
yeah.
actually
He's
appears
in
on
the show.
Billions, and it was incredible to get to
Yeah,
talk to
yeah.
him actually about Stand By Me. And Corey Feldman is in Stand By Me, not on Billions. But River Phoenix, in particular, I remember being 2 years old and watching Stand By Me. We had like a taped version of it on VHS from TV. And I don't think I had words for it, but I just remember being so moved by River's vulnerability in that film. You know, he plays sort of the leader of this group, but who is also very wise for his age, very gracious. And then there's an incredible scene in the film where he breaks down crying and is expressing how he just wishes he could go someplace where nobody knew him and be, you know, not bring all the assumptions that people have about him with him into a new place. And I think, you know, I have a greater understanding now, I think, in terms of my journey with my identity of why I identified with that in particular at that age. But I also was just so taken in by the performance. I mean, I wanted to be him, I wanted to act with him, I wanted to do whatever that was. And I think I had a understanding early on that I was moved and I wanted to move other people.
Well, I think it's really interesting because you hit on it there. Art can impact us in so many different ways. So that's a movie that impacted you. The role that you're playing with Taylor, they're impacting people all over it. And it must be just mind-blowing for you to think, like, I was that kid who was impacted, and now I'm the person who's impacting people just trying to find themselves.
Yeah, it's really humbling, honestly. And I'm certainly proud to be playing the character of Taylor, who, if they'd been on television when I was a young person, it would have totally changed my life. Yeah. So that is certainly really gratifying and humbling. And, you know, the feedback that I have gotten, you know, I've heard from people of all ages from all over the world who say, oh my gosh, I'm non-binary and I've always felt so alone, and then I saw your character on TV and now I feel less alone, and that's incredible. Or I'll hear from parents who say, you know, my kid just came out to me as non-binary and I didn't even know what that was, but I love this show Billions, and so I knew because of your character, and that's incredible. And then I've also heard from people who, and I'm paraphrasing, but someone who's like, you know, I'm from the South and I was homophobic and transphobic and I didn't understand, but I love your character and I love you, and I wish you all the best. And that is exactly what you said, which is like art affecting real change, which is the goal of any art that I'm making. And so, you know, you make a thing that you love and you hope people love it, and then they do, and then it also is changing hearts and minds. It's like, I couldn't ask for more. Yeah,
and also just reflecting what the world looks like, you know, in 2019, and having Taylor in that hedge fund world where there's so much male ego and, you know, so much machismo there, and it's just, here's Taylor and they're doing their thing. Like, it's just, there's so many different layers to it. So, I mean, it must be cool for you to unpack that character and unpack that atmosphere as well.
Yeah, you know, when we first meet Taylor in season 2, I think it's clear right away that they are not using machismo or bravado to get ahead.
They're doing their own thing.
They're doing their own thing, and really what they're doing is their job, and they're doing it better than anyone.
Going from intern to the top of the company.
Yeah, and I think it's it's one of the great things about getting to play Taylor is that they are a fully fleshed out, multi-dimensional character who is integral to the plot, if not, certainly during season 4, helping drive the plot forward. And so, you know, as an actor, that opportunity is a dream.
And just from a life perspective too, you mentioned just the journey that you had been on to find your true identity. The fact that it coincides not only with this role, but a show that's a hit, I mean, that's just a dream come true, right?
Totally. I mean, totally.
I mean, it's, you know, I'm sure when you were going through this process, you're thinking about how this potentially impacts my life, how it impacts my future, and then all of a sudden here's this character here. And we were talking off camera, just the writing from Koppelman and the team. I mean, it's spot on.
Yeah, the writing is incredible.
And to have that tone too for that character, you know, like how much input are you getting with that character? How much do you influence it?
So, gosh, how much I influence the character might actually be a better question for the writers, for Brian and David. But, you know, during season 2, I can think of a couple of times where like a script came my way, the first version of the script where Taylor was maybe misgendered at one point. And I would just shoot off a quick note saying like, oops, there's an error, and then it would get changed immediately and sent back. So it has always felt like a very safe space in that way, which I'm incredibly grateful for. And then mostly it's, you know, I'm getting what I get from the page, and then if I have questions for Brian and David or any of the other writers, you know, it's a very comfortable, approachable environment, which is awesome. Yeah,
definitely. So you have a really strong theater background, and I love to unpack that with people that come in because you get a lot of different reps, you're playing a lot of different characters, you have the interaction with the audience. So why was theater appealing to you, and how much has that impacted your life and your career?
Well, so I was in my first play when I was in kindergarten. It was a Hans Christian Andersen.
Still remember? Wow.
Oh yeah, I totally. I mean, I totally remember. And what I remember is just being on stage. I had a costume. I didn't have any lines. I was like a townsperson or something. But I just remember the feeling of being on stage with all of these people in this pretend world, and being aware of the audience, and that we were sharing an experience. I mean, it all just felt so magical and felt like where I was supposed to be. And so I think I started in the theater because theater was in school and I was in school. And so
that's like the first thing you can do.
That's the first thing you do. And so I just continued doing shows in middle school and in high school, and then came to acting school in New York, and also did an acting program in Ithaca, where I'm from. And then, and always knew that film and television were something I was interested in, and that probably for me it would begin with theater in New York and then transition to film and television, which is what happened.
So what's your best struggling actor story?
Oh my gosh. So I do use actor.
Right.
Yeah. Gosh. The first thing that comes to mind, so that's what I'll say. I was in a play in a downtown theater, and it was like a 5.5-hour play. And we performed at first we performed 5 nights a week and then 4 nights a week, and there were 2 intermissions. So, you know, you're there from 4 in the afternoon until
basically
midnight, all told, whatever. And I was doing that play while I was also on unemployment. And so, because I didn't have time to work outside of rehearsing and performing this show at the time. And I remember finished a performance one night. It was summer. You know, it's like 12:15, 12:30 a.m. And I go to swipe my Metro card, and I know that I have 1 ride left. And I'm living in Brooklyn at the time, and this is in Manhattan.
Yeah.
So I swipe it, and it eats my fare. And so I'm like, I guess I'm going to walk home.
You didn't even attempt to hop over
the Brooklyn Bridge. No, no, because the fine. I mean, I can't even afford
to pay the fine.
To pay the
if you can't pay
it. So I ended up walking home across the Brooklyn
How long was that?
Bridge. Oh, the walk was probably an hour and a half. And I just remember thinking, like, if this is what I am doing now, like walking across this bridge, because I am performing in this play, but I don't have any money.
Right.
Something will come of this. And I just remember that feeling that was like, something has to come of this. And it was actually that play that my now agents saw me in, that got me the meeting with them, that got me auditioning for shows like, you know, Younger and Orange is the New Black and ultimately Billions.
It's amazing how you go from that point, just one play, the right people seeing you, to impacting the rest of your career.
Yeah, I feel like it's like sort of a classic New York story that you hear about and don't think will really happen. Like, oh, I was in a play and an agent came to see me, and like, now I'm on TV. But like, and of course there's, you know, many more moments throughout my journey within that. But yeah, it's really incredible.
No doubt. So what season did you hop into Orange is the New Black?
Season 4.
Okay, so had you watched all 3 seasons previously?
I had seen some of it. I had not seen all of it. But yeah, certainly aware of the show and seen,
And at that point, it has some buzz, because Jessica Pimentel was here, who plays Maria. And she was saying she lives in Brooklyn, and she remembers people playing the show and hearing that theme song reverberating through the apartment.
Yeah.
So when you get on that show, you obviously have some idea about it, but what made that show different from previous experiences that you'd had?
Well, you know, Orange is the New Black is the first show where I had a recurring role, which means I didn't know how many episodes I'd be used for, but I knew it would be more than one.
Right.
As opposed to like Younger or Master of None, where I had one line, one day, one-offs, yeah. So in that sense, it was different. And also, joining a show that was so well established, you know, a show that created representation like we'd never seen before was a real honor. Yeah. And you know, this character I play, who is a self-identified Nazi white supremacist, you know, was there to be an antagonist in a Black Lives Matter storyline for that season.
Right.
And so that felt really important. You know, you need those white antagonists to tell those Black Lives Matter stories. And so I was happy to
How did you prepare for that role?
You know, I am in my own life a Black Lives Matter
activist.
So
it's the complete opposite.
It really is, if there were a role that were, I mean, it is the most opposite that I can think of, probably. And so you know, they were counting on me to show up at work, put on the costume, say the lines, do my job, and then leave it at work.
Right.
And that's what I do. That's what I do with any job. And so I just did what I usually do, which is show up, put on the costume, be in character, and then take off the costume and leave it there. And it is certainly challenging, you know, because when I'm in character, the character is having, I'm in character. The character is having thoughts, reacting in the moment.
Click that off.
No, I mean, I can click it off when I leave work, but so it was incredibly challenging and at moments painful, you know, because Brandy, the character I play, you know, is a multidimensional human being and is really smart and really well read, but has just read all of the wrong books. And so I felt like it's a real character study in how, in nature versus nurture, and in how critical education is in terms of our ability to understand and have compassion for, you know, other people. I feel like Brandy, in another life, could have totally been a liberal, you know, a Black Lives Matter activist herself, but
based on your family, based on what you read,
based on her family and where she came from, that is not, you know, that wasn't her journey.
That's really fascinating. So Orange is the New Black, one more season. It's kind of crazy to think that, right?
Yeah. So I was in season 4 and season 5, and then, well, I'm sure people have seen it, but there were a whole bunch of characters that like got on prison buses, which, you know, left it open for them to do season 6, and now I think they just finished their last season.
It's crazy.
I know, it is crazy.
I mean, that's one of those shows that's going to go down and be remembered for a lot of different reasons, but just for breaking barriers. I mean, and so even for you right now, like, you're experiencing it, you're living it, but like 5, 10 years, 15 years down the road, like, that's something you can be really proud of for being associated with that. So
thank you for saying that. I mean, I do feel really proud, and it does feel like a cultural touchstone, certainly.
Well, I think initially that show, especially with that cast, people would think, oh, it's just going to appeal to a certain audience. But no, it appeals to everybody because that's a topic with women in prison that people don't talk about as often. Yeah. And you actually see just the humanity of what's going on. And especially when you think about living in this world, you just see a headline, you don't go past that. You get an idea of what really goes down.
Totally.
And same sort of thing here in the corporate world and hedge funds. So how much did you know about the business world? What kind of research did you do? Because Taylor, they are a very specific character. So just take me through that whole process from Billions is a possibility to auditioning to getting into it.
So I got an email from my agent that said, you know, we have an audition appointment for you for this show, Billions. And I was ecstatic. And I had my initial audition with Allison Estrin, the casting director. And then a second audition with Brian and David, the co-creators and showrunners. And then a third audition, which was with Brian and David, but also the director of episode 1, season 2, Reed Moreno. Okay. And then actually my third and final audition for Billions was the same day right before the Orange is the New Black season 4 premiere event.
Oh, wow.
So I had my final audition for Billions, went to the Orange is the New Black premiere event, and then the next day I got the call that I had booked Billions.
That's a good stretch.
Not a bad couple days. And I don't have a financial background. I knew very little about the hedge fund world, and I would say what I did know was from movies, you know, like Wall Street or Boiler Room, or, I mean, certainly the Occupy Wall Street movement. I mean, the housing crisis in 2008, the financial crisis, certainly. I mean, I was working a a job at a nonprofit that I lost because of the financial crisis. So in that sense, I was aware of it having been directly affected by it. But in terms of like how venture capitalism works, the ins and outs, I mean, even terms, calls, puts, shorts, longs, I didn't know what any of that, I didn't know what any of that meant. And I think that was part of what was appealing about playing Taylor.
It was a challenge.
It was a challenge, getting to learn something that I didn't know. And so every script that comes my way, you know, there's certainly financial technical jargon, and I have to look it all up because I find that I can't memorize it if I don't know what it means, and certainly if I don't know what it means, Taylor won't know what it means, and then you won't believe them when they're talking. So, and then, you know, once I get the information that I need and I shoot the scene, it just goes out of my head because I don't need it anymore.
Yeah, and you got a great cast to work with as well.
Oh my gosh,
and I mean, Paul Giamatti, Damian Lewis, Maggie Sipp, playing with these characters. I mean, what's been the most fascinating part of that experience for you?
Oh gosh, most fascinating part of that, you know, everyone on the show, some of whom I've acted with on screen, and some of whom, like Jeffrey DeMunn, who plays Chuck Rhodes Sr., you know, no spoilers, but so far I've only gotten to interact with him at table reads. We have table reads for every episode, which is incredible.
That's
because
cool.
Then we at least all get to come together and say, we're all making the same thing. Like I might never have a scene with you, but here we are.
Right,
and
in other projects, sometimes they just film them separately.
Never.
You never even see the people.
Yeah, you'd be like, yeah, I'm in a movie with that person, but I've never met them. Or,
exactly.
So I feel lucky in that way. And then on top of that, not that this was surprising, but everyone is so kind and gracious and thoughtful and funny and considerate, and we all really love and respect each other, which, again, I feel really lucky, both on Orange and on Billions. We're really family, and I think I've heard that on other shows.
It's not like that.
It's not like that.
Yeah.
You know, that there are people who don't like working together, or the producers are bad, or whatever it is, you know, and I just feel lucky that every day I go to work, I'm just like, this is the best.
Yeah, you've had two really great family experiences, different, but definitely not the norm based on what other people are saying.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So season 4 coming up Sunday. In broad strokes, because I'm still behind here, and I'm sure some other people are catching up. What can people expect going into this season that maybe is a little different?
So, you know, season 4, we just get like deeper and deeper into everyone's world. I would say, you know, the show is character driven, and it is the relationships between these characters and the way in which they react to each other, I think, that makes the show what it is. So season 4, you know, Taylor is running their own shop. You know, they're running Taylor Mason Capital now, and we see them struggling and succeeding sometimes with running their own shop. And as much as Taylor would like to be, you know, out of Axe's line of fire during season 4, they certainly are not. In terms of Taylor specifically, there is a relationship from Taylor's past that will resurface, and we will watch them navigate that. You know, we're also going to watch Taylor navigate the ways in which they like will or won't compromise their morals and ethics in order to achieve their goal.
And they're dealing with that all throughout the show, just the arc that they're on. I mean, it's like, do I do this? What should I do? I'm trying to wrestle with this. Should I get this apartment? You know, do I fully buy into the lifestyle? So very interesting.
And I think for Taylor, especially for season 4, it's like, you know, Axe has given them an entree into this very exclusive world, and they've seen it, they've been in it, and they know how to function within it. And so I think for them, any moment that they consider like not being in it,
they can't fathom
it because they know it's out there, so why wouldn't they be a part of it? And I think that is part of the struggle between knowing that that's where they want to be and knowing that in order to do that, they're going to have to compromise. And in how they compromise during season 4, both as a fan of the show and as an actor who got to do it, it's so juicy.
I can't wait to find out. Asia,
thank you so much for coming in. Having me.
Season 4 of Billions, Sunday on Showtime. We'll see you next time here on The Sit Down.